Okay, we are live on the week 10 Q&A. Part of my rough voice, there's been some kind of bizarre cold going through here in our area, and I seem to have passed it in like 2 days, and my husband and kids seem to have been sick for like a week now. So if my voice sounds a little scratchy, I apologize. How's everybody doing today?
We've been a little sick at our house too.
Oh no. And my husband actually was in Missouri for the week. He was in Nevada with his mom. The week before this one, and he came home and he was fine like Sunday night. When he arrived home, and Monday morning he was sick. So we're wondering if it's going through there, and he brought it here. I was like, oh
Oh
no.
no. Maybe all of Missouri is sick.
I think so. I'm starting to wonder because no one else around us outside of my kids has it. So, and his kids obviously got it. They were down there with him. They're visiting his mama. So, yeah. Today we are gonna. Are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay. Excellent job on your bullet points, by the way. I went through them and you hit every point spot on. I just smoothed them out a little bit with some of the language patterns that I know. And so I really think you're getting really close to being ready to just launch into doing this. I wanted to mention something about hypnotic anchors. You can create a hypnotic anchor if you want for it doesn't have to be like about the product. You can make it about your process, right? So if you wanted to do one about how, like you have the specific method for determining what Christian women want most by asking them directly, like, I have a Christian women's consortium kind of thing. And, so we pull women around the country and they choose their favorites and the things that they feel are most supporting and nurturing and that they would feel best receiving. And that's what goes into our baskets. You know what I mean? So you can have like a specific different process, like like our Christian consortium process or our, love for Christian women process or something like that. I would play around with that a little bit. And then also just with the packaging, like you can have a specific anchor for your packaging, hypnotic anchor to show that it arrives, all in one piece and it looks beautiful no matter what. Right. So,
Sure.
Like we do this, whereas other people do this, so you can create a hypnotic anchor around that. But overall, it was an amazing listing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really proud of how far everybody's come. You're doing amazing. So let's see here. So today we're actually going to go over something that pertains to all online sales as opposed to just Amazon, because I know a lot of people are, and I'm hoping that as you're going through the class, you're thinking about this in terms of pertaining to all online sales as well, not just Amazon, because Amazon is just a framework, right? It's a framework and it's a platform in which we can sell products or we can help clients sell products. And that platform has limitations. So for example, like if you're selling off of a sales page on your website, you can use as many characters as you want, although it's not advisable to go for like 1,000 characters for your title or your headline, versus on Amazon, you're locked into 200 characters, right? So the reason that Amazon's just kind of our framework and our platform. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily, needing to sell just on Amazon. All of this stuff applies everywhere, right? Even for keyword infusion, the way that Google's keyword engine and Yahoo's keyword engine works is essentially the same as Amazon's. There's just Amazon's is set up more to show things based on buying behavior, whereas Google's is based on who found the information being most critical or information being most useful, right? So that's the only real difference between that. Does anybody have any questions from last week or previous weeks? No? Okay. Hi, Neri. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Hater.
Hi, Diane.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. Sorry.
Have I shared my screen yet? Give me a second. Let me do that here. Let's go to share your screen. That would be helpful, right? And you guys can know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we are going to go through this is actually a presentation that I did on, I want to say, oh my goodness. I want to say probably like 4 months ago. And I can't remember exactly where I did it. I think I might have done it for lunch with Norm. And then I know I did it for another place, but I can't remember. Doing a lot of presentations these days. So the purpose of this is just to go through and see what moves the needle when it comes to images, right? So one of the things that's become really popular within the work that I do personally is, you know, learning to tell clients what to put in their images. Okay. And the reason for that is because if we have great sales copy, but we have, awful images, and 48% of our customers are coming from mobile, like they're coming from, non-desktop, non-laptop devices, they rely heavily on the copy on those images and the images to determine whether or not they're going to buy the product. And I wasn't paying attention to this until a few years ago. There was a giant misnomer in the field that the images that you should use should just be multiple angles of your product, right? And that's not true. We have to use the images to be able to sell, right? So I'm referring to the A plus auxiliary or the A plus images, EBC section, enhanced brand content, and of course the auxiliary images, right? Which is the carousel that you see when you go to a listing. Let me give you a good example here. Let's pull up the first listing I can find. Okay, so I'm assuming you can see my screen. If you can't at any time, please let me know. So right here, when you're on a mobile phone, mobile device, the only thing that pops up first after you click on your search results is the title. And then, of course, these images, right? And so I'm not sure why the images aren't loading. Here we go. So these images are what's going to pre-sell the product on, there's a baby outside my door, on Amazon if you're searching from your mobile device. Okay. I don't know how to get rid of that there. Sorry. And these are not images I've created. This is just an example I pulled up, right? It's a product. This is a competitor for a product that I'm working on and just finished, actually. So the way, I don't know if they don't have enhanced brand content. So the way that people are now consuming the information on mobile devices is really important. When they go to Amazon, they search for an autofill keyword. They almost exclusively will type in 2 words and then choose the first autofill that makes sense to them, right? So the 2 words might be prepper masks. Awesome. So they might be looking for a soothing keychain, right? And so that right there only pops up for 2 keywords, so they'd automatically search for that, right? They might be looking for, let's do autism sensory and see how there's like all these different things that pop up. These are autofills. Okay. So customers are quickly looking through these and then choosing the ones that they want, right? So if you are, let's do something generic, like products. So if you are someone who sells these comfort items, right? Imagine you're a customer, you're on your mobile phone, you go through here and you say, okay, great. So what am I looking for? Ooh, this one says bestseller. That's always great. And then, oh, fidget toys. Like I know that, these are necessary. Oh, that's bright and colorful. That's bright and colorful. That's bright and colorful. If you're a parent who understands autism, you generally want to avoid the bright and colorful things, right? So you might be looking for something that's a little bit more soothing. Okay. That one's a little bit more soothing. Those are a little bit more soothing. But if your child isn't disturbed by colors, then you would say, oh, okay, well, it's a bestseller. It's the first position. Awesome. I really like that image. It looks like there's a lot of value, right? And kids get bored. So you'd click on this as the consumer. And what you'd see is you would see this title and you see the first image and you have something called a carousel that pops up, right? So let me see if I can get it to pop up here. No, it won't pop up on here. So what happens is you then flip through, it's kind of like you swipe through these different images, okay? And these images have to sell you. That is a lot of copy on there. I would not advise you put that much copy on there, but I'm guessing that, and no more than usually 3 steps, okay? So you're going to consume the listing title, then you're going to go do pre-sale images. And then what you do is you go and look for the reviews, right? This is kind of what everybody does. So you go all the way down to the bottom until you hit the reviews and you might read some reviews, right? Then when you're coming back up, you're actually going to be looking for, you need something to stop you, right? So you need eye-catching images. This is their A+ section. Okay. So you need something to stop you so that you then go and say, oh, okay. And then once their eyes go above here, they say, oh, I just missed the product. So I need to learn more about the product. Then they start scrolling back down. So you need a scroll stopping image for your first position. Okay. And you need one in one of these last two positions, right? That way they're just going to stop scrolling and clicking around on everything. Okay. So it's important to know how they consume it and that they're consuming it based on images. Now, when someone is ordering off of mobile, right, they're still going to do the same thing. They come over here. They've already looked at the title. They're going to pay a little bit of attention to the bullet points if they're looking for something specific, right? The bullet points is about converting people on specifics and superiority. Then they're going to come over here, and you want to always have it so that you have your, superiority image like first, not your first image, like your first auxiliary image, right? This is your main image. This is on auxiliary image. So that when people are going through this, it's like, oh, okay, so I see, like this is what is really helpful. This is why the product's superior. Okay. This is where and then they'll go down and do the exact same thing. They go to the reviews. Okay. They scroll all the way down on their computer to the reviews, right? They'll read like the top 3 to 5 reviews. So little tip, if you have really great reviews, but they're from a little while ago, have people that go to your listing and hit that button, that helpful button, because the more helpful, like 73 people, Amazon ranks the reviews by how helpful they were, right? So like if this is your best review, you want the most people to say it's helpful. Okay. So go and have people click on that helpful button as many as you possibly can. And then your best reviews will pop up to the top, and those will be what people see. Okay. Cute little fun tip there. Same thing. 44 people found this helpful. Okay. So those will all rank at the top. Okay. So let's see here. So the importance of color psychology, right? That is why on Amazon it's so important, because it's not just that the words are what sells, it's that the images are what sells, right? So the things that matter most in the images are going to be things like the background. The people you use need to either be people like them or people who are where they want to be, right? That future pacing. Okay. So you can show like someone who, let's say somebody wants to be able to climb the stairs without pain, right? And your demographic is, let's say 70 plus, uses a cane. You would show somebody climbing the stairs without pain using a cane, or you'd show somebody climbing the stairs without a cane carrying a laundry basket, right? You'd want a future pace with your images. You can also, do before and afters with your images, like reverse pace to future pace, like before this product, after this product, right? There is a legal legitimacy issue with that. So if you don't have your own before and afters for, let's say, skincare products, you need to get some, or you can ask your customers if you can use theirs, right? I don't understand. So, right. So you can do things like that, but we're going to go through all of these. And these are things I've collected over like 12 years. So this is a lot of, this training is more a lot of facts, and to help you create more like your own checklist of things you can go refer back to when you're providing image guidance for clients, or you're creating your own images, or if you're into graphics teams. A lot of graphics teams have requested this lately. So let's see, I'm going to get to the meat of it real quick because this was a presentation. Let's see here. I'll just make it big. Let's see, slideshow. Let's see here. So yeah, boost Amazon sales. We boost Amazon sales a ton by switching out images and doing different things with videos. You guys don't need that. Why listen to me? You guys are already here. What it actually fixes. Okay. So we're going to go over videos, imagery, images, auxiliary image section, the images by your title, and the EBC A plus content. And this applies to all of those, right? And we're not going to go over the pattern for EBC A plus content this week because that's something that we're going to need a whole entire class for. We'll do that next class. Let's see here. So it's important that you always, that's something that I hit really hard with this, is it's important that you always tell your prospective customers what to think about the picture, right? So people will tell you, oh, I don't need words that sell. I don't need sales copy. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Here's the challenge. Everybody interprets those pictures differently. So unless you actually frame, like put a picture frame around it, we call it framing, frame what it is that you want your customers to think about that in a way that sells the product, they're going to use their own picture frame, right? It's like if you send somebody a picture in a frame and, versus not in a frame, they're going to try to see how it fits into their house. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're using the images to subconsciously frame your product and using the words to subconsciously frame your product. Okay. So people won't, so there's like 4 rules when it comes to images on Amazon, right? We already know just in general, people won't buy what they can't see. Um, right? People won't buy what they don't understand, which means you need words and how to's, right? So if they don't know how they're going to how they're going to applicably use it with that future pacing, if they don't understand how to actually use it, you need an image for that. They won't buy based on product angle images alone. Okay, so if you're selling a product, say you're selling a coffee mug, and you know have 10 other listings on there competing for someone else to buy the coffee mug, they're not going to buy it just based on 3 angle images of that coffee mug or 3 angle images of a pair of scissors, right? So you have to have the words that sell, right? So we need to have, I usually call it sight plus understanding. So like people are going to see it and they need to instantly understand it in like 14 seconds or less, right? And the things that they're seeing and understanding have to be pertinent to people's hot buttons so they accelerate sales. We don't just want pretty images, right? There's a lot of pretty images. We focus on images that sell. Okay. Some really important things that why it's important to focus on images is obviously your mind reads the images first on any page, whether that's a sales page or an Amazon page or anything, right? It's the first thing that we do is read the images on that page. We process the words and context on images 60,000 times faster than we do just seeing words and bullet points. Okay. So that's why we keep those bullet points really short instead of unformatted paragraphs on images, right? So always make sure that you have bullet points. You want to have bullet points that are 5 words or fewer if possible. Sometimes we'll do a brand image. And with that brand image, we'll have like 2 sentences, but those sentences always appear below the main image. And the reason for that is people always read what's below the main image because we're conditioned to notice those as disclaimers, like legal disclaimers, right? And then remember that people read the text on images better than they read it on the bullet points. So you want to take that, you always want to write your bullet points first and then take the hottest things from your bullet points, like the hottest little like power bullets, right? And put them on images. Sorry, I'm letting a dog in. The dog was scratching at the door. Okay, so let's see here. The other thing is that people are more likely to assume that the words on images are facts as opposed to the words in bullet point, right? And this is also beneficial. Like I said, this is like very fact-based trading. Sorry. You're also, think of it as like a mastermind. Like we're sharing everything we've learned about what works in images and why images work. Okay. With VACOG, which is a part of NLP, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory, right? VACOG. We know that 65% of people are visual. Okay. And 35%, the other 35% are auditory, people who read and people who feel, right? So if you're trying to convert only the 65% of people who are highly visual, you're leaving everybody else on the table. The other reason that these images with power bullets are so important is that 80% of people buy based on skimming, right? Like they skim the listing, they skim the images. The better you can, those bullets are for like the deep divers, okay? The bullets are for conscious buyers, that 20%. And the bullet points, these are your main bullet points, are also there for anybody who needs additional information before making a decision. Not everybody reads the bullet points, right? So we need to take the most powerful pieces of our bullet points and put them on the images, both for A+ content and for auxiliary, so that those 80% of skimmers can actually absorb our information without having to read a ton, right? Does that make sense? I'm going to assume that's a yes because no one's asking questions. Okay, so with those skimmers, right, we talk about having pattern interrupts and context anchors. So I know we've talked about pattern interrupts before. A pattern interrupt is something that stops you from doing what you were doing. So in this case, we would call it a scroll stopping image, right? We want something that is going to either look really intense or really cool or really colorful in context with everything else around it. So if you go to Amazon and you look at your listings, the Amazon colors themselves are pretty drab, except they have a lot of orange, right? And they have a lot of black. So you'd want to do something that contrasts with that as a pattern interrupt. And we'll go through some great pattern interrupt images in a few minutes. And then, people, like I said, they love reading images and they consume smaller bites. And there's an reward system in the brain, right? The consuming smaller bites makes us feel more accomplished. Okay. That's why video games used to have like 30-minute battles, and now video games have like 2 minutes that all build up to 30 minutes. So you get through this level in 2 minutes, and this one in 3 minutes, and this one in 5 minutes, because our brain consuming smaller bites releases endorphins. Like, serotonin is one of them. I'm trying to think of what the other one is. I'm totally drawing a blank right now, but it releases endorphins that help us to feel accomplished, right? Still, you need those bullet points there, and you need more of the text there for the people who are central processors, right? They want to read as much information as possible about a product. So they'll go through and read every word in your A+ content section, every word in like the top 20 to 100 reviews. They'll go through and read all the questions and see how they were answered. So we still have to make sure. And those people, central processors, tend to have a lot higher expendable income. And so if you have a product that sells at, sells for more than the average product in your category, then you're going to want to focus a lot more on making sure that those central processors have as much information as possible, both on the images without overloading the images, and then also in your bullet points in A+ section, right? Let's see here. So what is working right now? What's been working? What's working now? This is where the checklist begins, right? So and you guys should have a copy of this. So every time you go through, and if not, I'll paste a copy of this below the video, right? Below the PowerPoint. So everybody has it. So you always want to make sure that you can use stock images, but they can't be fake or cheesy, right? If you shift to non-cheesy stock images that look real, then that provides up to 45% boost in conversions. And that's on normalized conversion. So it's not like they're converting at 10% and then that suddenly makes you convert at 55%. That means you're converting at 10% and suddenly you're converting 45% more. So, instead of 1 out of every 100 people, or 1 out of every 10 people, or 10 out of every 100 people are buying, you're now looking at 14 to 15 out of every 100 people are buying. So it does make a significant difference, right? You do want to use people who look real, that are flawed, that are flawed kind of in the way that your target audience would be flawed, your target demographic and psychographic. It's like, it's okay to show people with wrinkles. You don't want to show someone 55 with perfect skin. The brain will shut down on the believability side of that. It's great to show someone who is more natural, who has freckles, pets that aren't perfect, right? Unless it's for a grooming kit. The only time you ever want to use a perfect image is if your target demographic is using it to attain perfection, which is very, very rare. Okay. And on that note, images that don't actually look like the product is the cause of 22% of returns, right? So you want to make sure that when you Photoshop your product into the image, that it's something that actually looks like it belongs in the image. And it's, when you have your main photos and your auxiliary photos that show from different angles, you want to make sure that it actually looks like the image, right? That's why you see people going and putting, like, let's say that a company changes their packaging, right? And it's a monthly reorder product. So for example, if, sports nutrition changed their packaging on their supplement bottle, right? That's why you see the second image as, same great effect, cool new look or something like that, right? So people understand that it is going to not look identical to the product itself that they're used to, okay? That way it diminishes the volume of returns. So mobile small screen optimize is incredibly important. 52% of Amazon sales occur on mobile. It was actually 48% last year, but now 40% was a stat from last year. 52% was a stat from US specific. 48% was all Amazon, like, sites, all major Amazon sites, right? Now this year already, since January, 75% of all Amazon shoppers have made a purchase on mobile. That doesn't mean that 75% of Amazon sales occur on mobile. It means that suddenly a lot more people are using their mobile phones to purchase on Amazon, right? So we want large space filling images, right? Because those outconvert smaller ones on a mobile phone. You need at least 3,000 by 3,000 pixels, okay? You can go anywhere from 1,000 to 1,000, 1,000 by 1,000 pixels to 10,000 by 10,000 pixels, but we've found that 3,000 by 3,000 pixels is optimal for viewing products and scrolling in on most mobile phones, right? And that's a perfect square. You always want to do a perfect square for your image. You don't want to have wonky images that people have to move across their screen to get to and scroll, right? Let's see here. That was just a reminder, we just talked about that. Auxiliary images appear before the bullets and description and A+ section, right? So auxiliary images, the images by your title, are your most important sales real estate when people are searching on mobile, okay? Let's see, ABC. Yeah, we already talked about that. If you don't have great auxiliary images, you will lose them. You will lose these customers as they're going down and looking at the comparison sections, okay? So the comparison sections are sections like people also bought, or where they package things together. Now you can go and create a package yourself or have your client create a package that shows up in that section. Okay, let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about here real quick. Right, so as you're scrolling down here, right, let's say you're on mobile and you've seen the title, you've seen the images, they've pre-sold you, so you decide you're going to look some more. So you look down here, right, and the bullet points aren't going to be there. You look down here and there's like a buy it with section, right? So this can be either combined by Amazon, or you can create your own buy it with section. So like if you wanted to do like a Christian gift basket, but then have like add-ons, this is kind of like upsell, right? So you have a Christian gift basket and then maybe you're selling like a bottle of sparkling cider that you also sell. And you're selling like, maybe you sell like fake flowers or something. So you can combine something here and then people will see that and add all three to the cart sometimes. But if they're combining with somebody else's products, you have the risk of losing them when they were going to buy this to either this or this, because they can click away, right? They can go say, oh, I think I want to go look at that. Okay. Same thing right here. When it has all products that are 4 stars and above, this is sponsored. So you can dominate the space with your products if you want, right? But people will say, oh, okay, great. So we already know that they've clicked on an image that looks like this with a whole bunch of stuff in it because they were, already organically ranked. Okay. Now you've got someone who's on their cell phone and they all of a sudden see this. Okay. Does any of this look more enticing, or have we pre-sold them well enough with our images and our sales copy that they're going to keep scrolling past it looking for those reviews? Okay. Because remember, they're consuming from top to bottom, bottom to top, right? Same here. Products related to this item. These are all sponsored, right? So are they going to see something here that makes them click away, or have we done a good enough job, an excellent job pre-selling them using our images, right? The hypnotic images that we're going over with all the different elements that we need, plus the hypnotic power bullets. Okay. So that's how important this is, because there's 3 opportunities right here to lose them off the page before they even get to your A+ section and before they even get to your reviews, right? And the questions. Okay, so there's the questions. Here are the reviews. Okay, and a lot of people will just go like this. They'll say, oh, okay, well, I've been pre-sold on it. I think it's great. And so I'm just going to go to the ratings. Okay. Oh, great. So now I jump down here. Oh, this looks excellent. Great ratings, great reviews. Absolutely love it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back up, right? Questions, great. So, I forgot. I need to get more beef bone broth or something, right? That's on here. I don't know why that's on here. But see, even when they're scrolling back up to get to your A+ content, they are again faced with 1, 2, 3 distractions before they even can get to a scroll stopping image about your product, right? This is like this whole thing. If this was a regular sales page, this thing is a mess. But Amazon, this essentially is a sales page, just that Amazon's trying to get sales for all products. They're trying to maximize sales across the board instead of like maximizing sales, for that particular Amazon seller, that private label seller. Okay. So as you can see, there's a lot of distractions there, right? Jumping back let's go back to our thing here. Okay. I remember how to launch this. Slideshow. Okay. Right. So visually anchor product benefits, right? Connect the features and benefits using arrows and lines between product features and sales copy filled boxes. We went over that last week and what that looks like. And then use alternative views as opposed to like using like 3 or 4 of your auxiliary carousel spaces to show different views of the product. Put it in a thumbnail in the corner of your image, right? So space equals money. Okay. And then if you really think that people are going to want to see your product from all angles, you can always create a 360-degree spinning video, right? Have somebody create that for you and then add a lifestyle video after that. So the 360-degree video grabs their attention and it provides that ability to experience the product in real life as though they are like physically in front of it, tangibly holding it, right? Which is really important to customers. And then if you had a lifestyle video, we've seen this with just the 360 and the lifestyle separate, it boosted sales. I think one was like 29% and the other was 29%. And it didn't mean that it was 29% like higher, like if you're getting 10%, it's now 39%. It meant that sales went up, based on the original conversions by 29%, right? We combined them and we hit 47% on average. So using a 360-degree spinning video of your product, and then also like you can even put it on like get like a turntable or a lazy Susan, and like spin it and record it, right? You can totally do that, right? Spin it slowly and record it, and then just like they have lazy Susans that like, or these little turntables you can buy that are inexpensive for your products, and you just put them on there, and then you just train your camera on it, and we'll start like at a lower angle and then go up over towards the top as it's spinning and then go back down, and you have your 360 video for less than $100, right? And you can make hundreds of them. Okay, give me a second here. Let's go to the next one. So context, right? We're talking about context. We're talking about future pacing. We're talking about context means that the customer can see how it's going to be useful in their life. Okay. We always want to use images that inspire curiosity, right? And makes them think like, oh, what's that? Right. So open nested loop or SOS images, that's like, you have images that would be the same as like your scroll stopping images, right? So it's like if you have somebody, like really up close to the camera, someone's going to say, oh, okay, great. So like I see a human face, so let me look at it, right? That's a natural thing that we do. Or you have something that's like that you can't quite make out what it is in the image, right? But it's something that's like bright and it stops and catches their attention. Okay. Visually demonstrate the benefits, right? The clearer the benefit, the higher the sales. So there's an example. Let's say you have two girls with shoulder length hair facing the camera, right? Versus one woman with flowing hair behind her across the whole image. Okay. So if you're selling a hair care product, what's going to sell more? The woman with the hair flowing behind her across the whole image, or just two girls facing a camera with shoulder length hair, right? We've actually tested this and we know that it's, showing the benefit of the product, which in this case is hair care. So the hair being the focus as opposed to the faces being the focus, actually far out converted, each other. So the hair flowing behind far out converted the girls with shoulder length hair facing the camera, right? Now, maybe if the girls had like longer hair in front, that might have worked better. But, if you can possibly magnify specific product benefits, okay, the benefits of what that product does. So like the hair looking long and flowy and glowing, kind of like you see on those commercials versus like, oh, hey, so here's a person's face and here's their hair, right? So make sure you can visually demonstrate the benefits if possible. That may require lifestyle photography. It may not. So it just depends. And you ask your clients ahead of time, if you have clients, ask your clients, hey, can I, like, are you going to be using a photographer? Which package did you purchase if you did? And, can I help contribute to those lifestyle images by providing a blueprint of guidance for your person so that they understand what's going to actually sell, not just look pretty, right? Because it's all about the sales. Make your images enlargeable. Again, this goes back to, and it used to be like Amazon has since changed this since I did this. It used to be 10,000 by 10,000 pixels was like, you wanted to get as close to that as possible. And now we're finding with mobile phones, because of the way that they're actually optimizing images in terms of pixelization, that we want to go closer to 3,000 by 3,000, right? So but when we were testing this, we saw a 63% conversion lift from 28% increase in product image size, right? So if we took a product image and it was like 1,000 by 1,000 and suddenly we made it, like 2,000 by 2,000, that'd be a 200%. But if we increased by 28%, we got a 63% conversion lift because people could see that. They could then see the details and understand what they were purchasing better, and they could see the words on their cell phone screen. Let's see here. I advise that you zoom in, or your client zoom in on every single image and look at it like tiny piece by tiny piece. Okay. Customers notice shoddy craftsmanship. Like if there's a bend or there's a scratch or it's, like unfinished, your product's unfinished, they'll definitely notice that, right? Dingy and blurry images definitely diminish sales. So you can do a blurry background and that grabs attention. But if your product looks dingy, like if that white background, and I've seen this a lot, if that white background behind your main image on Amazon looks dingy, your sales will go down, right? It looks like the product's outdated and old. Same thing if your product looks blurry, okay? So I go through and I take a fine tooth comb, which means like I meticulously look at every single image, right? Um, and then that's another great way when you're looking at those images that up close to see like how yours compares to other products. So if you look at your image and you're like, oh, hey, look, mine is different in this way, like my green tie wire for plants contains channels and this other one doesn't. And those channels, what can those channels be there for? Oh, I bet they could be there to help wick away moisture. And so they don't clamp down on the plant and damage the stalk. So you can create a hypnotic anchor around that positions your product as superior, whereas your customers may not even bother to look at the channels unless you point that out, right? Let's see here. So 360-degree spinning interactive videos should always go in position 7 if possible, and combining them with lifestyle clip videos is even better. So 60% of customers prefer this to 1, 2, and 3 image angles, which means that as opposed to using up 3 spaces in your image section in your auxiliary carousel, you can use those spaces to actually provide more benefits and do more pre-selling using your images, okay? And they'll actually click and watch the 360 spinning interactive video. And again, all you have to do is get one of those little automatic spinners, put your product on top of it, and start at the bottom with your cell phone, and then kind of slowly work your way up every time it turns around, right? And then people can see a full 360-degree spinning video, right? They love interactive videos. Not everybody has access to those. An interactive video is one of those videos where it's not really a video, it's more like 3D modeling. And so it's where you grab the product with your mouse and you can pull it up or pull it down, and it changes the angle at which you view it, right? Lifestyle clip videos, right? So this is where you're seeing people move through space using the product, or move through space as or they're moving through space, like they're walking through their living room to their kitchen and they're pouring a cup of tea, and, they're going and they're, outside running, and, you can Photoshop, I guess Photoshop is the right word. You can edit your video, like any video clips, and put your product over the video, right? As opposed to having to have this captured live. But if you can capture it live, these lifestyle videos are really, really, really high converting, and people are 85% more likely to buy your product if they see a video of it in use with, different humans, pets, and spaces where they personally use it themselves. Okay. Things that mirror their life, right? So we combined them. I think I just told you guys this. We combined them, and so it was 47% lift, which is really, really nice, right? Add an authentically smiling person, right? So there's the famous person behind this was like, there was a redhead who had freckles, and that was 20 years ago that was considered like, you want to cover freckles up, right? And you want to color your red hair. Well, someone started adding these authentically smiling people, and they tested this one with a redhead with freckles who looked like she was truly happy. And the average boost by adding something like this was 10%. We've seen higher boosts on different images, but the average boost is 10%. And that's, if you're adding all these up and you start seeing these boosts go up, your sales are going to go through the roof, right? So if you ever want to direct attention towards like a specific benefit or feature, usually a benefit, you can use somebody who has like their eyes looking at that thing, right? So they're looking off to the side, right? Because eye direction like directs our attention. Okay, what's that person looking at? So we're going to go look at that too, right? So you want to use these eye direction images where someone's looking to the left, looking to the right, looking forward, something along those lines, to direct it at the benefits and the words that sell on your images, right? Again, that's a scroll stopper. People are like, what are they looking at? Always use easily recognizable trust anchors. Okay. And again, trust anchors were the BPA free, environmentally friendly leaf, guarantee seals, things like that. You guys have a whole list of them from the last class you can refer back to. Okay. And if there's something that's a trust anchor, is like, okay, well, we know that this is a certification. You can also create your own trust anchors for your brand, right? Based on your brand colors to set you apart and make things unique. But if it's like a certification seal or something like that, you want to make sure that you're using the appropriate one, right? So for example, if you were allowed to use FDA again sometime in the future, you would want to have the actual FDA seal on there. Currently, Amazon has mostly prohibited the use of the words FDA along with the seal for FDA, right? So also anytime you can include like something furry and cute or babies. Okay. Baby to like 18 months, 2 years, where they still have that chubby little baby face, right? That there's a psychological response called the baby schema. And so if we can use a baby, people will anchor like trust. They'll lower their subconscious mind barrier. So they're more likely to absorb what it is that you're saying, right? They feel safe and they're like, well, they have a baby, they have pets, so they must be safe. We have a baby and we have pets, we're safe, right? So it helps them to feel warm, fuzzy, and connected to your product, right? Just because of our biological wiring. Let's see here. So if you take an image and you have a good deal of sales copy you need to put on it, let's say more than 5 words for some reason, and sometimes you do, right? You want to put a box, like a white box or a cream colored box at the very base of that image. Make sure you're staying still within the 3000 by 3000. So you may have to cover up 3000 by 3000 pixels. So you may have to cover up part of that image. But people always stop and read what's under images. So if you have something really important to say, put it in a box under an image, right? Anchoring ease of use. We saw a huge lift in products that seemed complicated. So for example, like shower filters. Okay, people are thinking, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Sure, they say it's easy. But if you show somebody who's non-technical, like an older woman, a child, I'm not saying all older women are non-technical, that's just public perception, right? An older woman or a child doing it, or someone you wouldn't expect using it, actually using the product or installing a product, then it's going to anchor ease of use. And so it's going to be like, okay, even if they don't consciously notice that, it's going to subconsciously pacify their need to feel like they can accomplish it and that it will work for them. Neon highlights. This I would use any place there's channels for water or where energy is flowing, right? So anything that's an electronic product, try to use neon highlights. And we're talking like cool neon green and cool neon blue, not like the really bright yellow, neon that you use on like the road workers jackets are made of. Okay. Add photos of your team or the artisans who create it. That will lift, even if they're like human photos of your customers, right? That and say it's your customers, say it's your team, say it's the artisans who created your product. Do not add dirty factory images. Okay, leave the dirty factory images out of there. We don't want to see those. Those will greatly diminish conversions. But if you can find some that are nice and look like it's a great working environment, or you can show your team or your family, that will lift product recall, right? So it's not just that people will purchase more of your product. They will. We already know that faces and photos convert. It's that like people will remember your product, right? So that's why you see all of these bigger brands suddenly showing like their family in the brand panel that we've decided, in the last year to add and test to all of our A+ EBC content, right? Because people like seeing who they're buying from. They like seeing who's created it. They feel anchored to that. Then they feel almost like oh, this is a real person. I'm not just buying from a company. I'm buying from a person, right? I want to feed somebody else's family. Okay. So as opposed to like, I want to give a big business money. So it's a really great thing to do is add human photos of your team or artisans or your customers. There it is. Adding human photos of your customers who are actually using your product, whether these are influencers or otherwise, lift product sales up to 102%. Okay, that means that you should or your client should go to the ends of the earth to get photos of your customers using your product, right, in real life. Not spammy photos, not like perfect looking customers. You want like average looking customers using your product, okay? If you are, doing lifestyle images and it's applicable, you can use alcohol glasses. I understand that some people are not pro alcohol, and that's okay. You don't have to use them, but it did provide a 47% boost. Just make sure that it's relevant to your demographic, brand, or product, or it can backfire. Okay. So test it first. Like if you're someone who your demographic are, 40 to 45-year-old moms with 4 or more kids who regularly get together with their friends and drink wine, it's appropriate to use that type of image, and you'll get a great boost from that because then it tells people, oh, they're like us, right? People who use this product are like us. And we like people who are like us, and we trust people who are like us, and we buy from people like us, right? But otherwise, don't use those. Let's see here. Nostalgia. Oh, okay. So nostalgia is something we try to use on a regular basis. That's essentially the feeling you get when you conjure up a memory of a special life event, right? So, like the birth of your first child, or, if you look at, even if you were never at the event, let's say you see a picture of your grandparents' wedding, okay, and you remember your mom telling you a story about it. Anytime we see, like families eating together with food on the table and laughing, like that creates nostalgia. This works really well in the food, do it yourself, household, wedding, baby, and any special life event categories. Okay. So, like any kind of keepsake category, this is obviously going to work really well. This also works really well to soften people who are jaded. That's your customer awareness level 5 prospects. So these are people who've tried everything before. They believe they've tried everything and nothing works. That's a really great way to anchor them to your products. Like, oh, okay, well, I remember this from my childhood, or I remember this from, my grandparents. And so this feels good to me. Okay. Make sure that the nostalgia are people like them, right? So some great, like people who are maybe baby boomers, aren't necessarily going to connect with people coming home from World War II, but someone who's much older would, right? Like what events were going on in their life, even socio-political events going on in their life at that time, right? You can the positive ones, like the end of bad things happening, right? So like for our generation, and for my kids' generation, a lot of it's going to be, like the day they finally made you stop wearing masks, which I think is Monday in my area, or Sunday night or Saturday night at 10:59, or Saturday at 11:59 p.m. We no longer have to wear masks, right? So that's like a big thing, right? So like the pandemic, the end of the pandemic is something you could anchor in there. Just don't use the words pandemic, right? um like but the examples are like people coming home from war. Like there's a sailor that came home from war, and there's this iconic picture, that even if you've never been a part of that, you understand that as an American, like, okay, well, this stands for, this is nostalgic to us. It stands for patriotism, right? Patriotism in a positive way, not patriotism like in a prepper-y kind of fashion, right? Images of family dinner, adults, or any adult doing anything with a child where they're looking at each other and they look happy, right? Especially if the child is looking up at them, that anchors nostalgia. Old people holding hands with young people, dad's hands cupping baby shoes, or anything that's cute and baby like. If you put a dad in a picture and you're selling something that's for babies or toddlers, and you have the things in the dad's hands, it's going to anchor nostalgia. Okay. Any kind of thing, any kind of like stages events, like parents teaching a child to ride a bike, parents teaching a child to walk, anybody teaching a child to walk, right? We automatically assume that it's parents or grandparents based on the age and how old we think people are when they have kids, right? Let's see here. Your product becomes far more memorable when you use an up close face as opposed to a far away face, right? So you can combine this in two ways. You can combine it using like their eyes looking a certain direction. Just because we're hardwired to anchor up close faces to social relationships from birth. So like if you use a face that looks like your customers and they like themselves, most of the time people do. At some level they like themselves, at some level everybody doesn't like themselves, then that can provide a boost, and that provides a boost of memorability too, right? So they'll anchor that face to your product. Let's see here. Use a comparison chart. We went over comparison charts last week, right? Make sure it's easy to read. It's 12 or fewer benefits, right? And make sure you use like check marks in your section and red X's in their section. You can refer back to last week's video for that. Let's see here. Okay. Now, the biggest lift that has occurred with anything is changing the colors, right? And that's beyond changing sales copy. So like obviously sales copy, if you change your sales copy, your lift is going to be superior to changing the colors. But when it comes to images, based on color psychology, 62% of consumers buy within 90 seconds based on the colors. Okay, 62% by within 90 seconds based on the colors. Okay, they've tested this with boxes that are just plain color boxes and the same sales copy on it, right? They've tested this with plain color boxes and then different sales copy on it. And the sales copy can make a boost as well, in addition to the color. But the color is really important. Okay, and there's colors everywhere within these Amazon listings and on e-commerce sites. So like think about your package design and your logo. The color schemes you're using for your images are really important. Okay, your banners, your infographics, your charts, and your product itself. That's why sometimes we see like, for example, I was part of a company that was selling a foam roller, and we sold that company. We were selling a foam roller like 5+ years ago, I want to say. What year is it? Yeah, 5+ years ago. and maybe it was 4+ years ago, something like that. And there was consistently, we had like 5 color combinations, and consistently 2 of the colors would outsell the other ones. There's no different benefit to having a, purple one over having a black one, right? The purple one's not going to relieve your pain better. It's not going to help you work out better. Same size, same dimensions, same features, same benefits, everything. Same exact sales copy. The only thing that was different was the color, right? So a lot of people say, oh, okay, well, I want a black one because I don't want to look showy in the gym, or I like to look sleek, right? Or someone's like, I want a purple one because I want to look more feminine when I'm using it, right? And I like the way this color makes me feel. Another person's like, I want an orange one, right? So 84.7% of consumers like identify, they already know, right, that they're influenced by color, and 93%, choose it based on how that color looks and feels within the image, how the product looks and feels within the image. So images and placement is really important. Let's see here. So you may have to, one of the things that people should be split testing are their images, not just their sales copy on the images, but are their images, right? So color, we already know that color evokes emotion. We've talked about that influences behavior, buying behavior, and otherwise. We know that color can literally program or change our mood. It can change our attitude or feeling towards different people, products, and spaces. They have had bosses start wearing shirts that were like bosses that people perceived as being really mean, start wearing shirts that are more like light colored pastel type color shirts. And like they did this for like 30 days, and then they didn't tell anybody they were doing it in the office. And these are in big companies, right? So they have a large pool to source from, to source like data from. And what they found was like people's impression of their boss improved by like, I was over 200%. Okay, so they liked him. They thought he was being nicer. They thought his behavior was changing, right? And the person changed literally nothing. They just changed the way that what they wore to work, right? Um, so for example, like we recently shifted, oh my goodness, who was it? It was a nutrition product, okay, from a yellow scheme to like a soft green scheme, okay? And we just used like 4 different colors of green, and we saw 132.41% increase lift. That's more than doubling sales, just so you know. That's what we did, was shift the images, and we also shifted the copy on the images, right? But the only thing we did with the copy and images was like turn what they've written into power bullets. So they were already on the right track with all of their touch points and their hot button points, but they weren't using the right images or the right color psychology. Okay. So this gives you an example, right? So each of these brands, that most of these are brands that if you live in the US or maybe even around the world, you know these brands. Okay. So there's no one size fits all color scheme for every brand, right? So a lot of people will be like, oh, just use green and blue. And then everybody's using green and blue, and that doesn't work. But as you can see, green and blue is usually pretty safe to go with, but it's also not going to pop if you have a more, if you have an audience or a demographic that wants something that's like stronger, right? So this is kind of a cheat sheet for you guys. If you want to anchor things like optimism, clarity, and warmth, you use some yellow. Don't use a lot of yellow. Use pops of yellow, use pops of orange, use pops of red, right? A pop of can be your logo, right? You can have like a red logo that pops out, right? But here's like a list of, like if these are the feelings you want to anchor, and these are the feelings you only want to anchor them if those are the feelings that your customer who's purchasing wants to feel, then here's kind of some color ideas you can work with. Okay. We also know, right, each color has an emotional trigger. Okay. So if we look at like, these are all positive triggers. Okay. We aren't talking about the negative triggers. In some groups, like when you use a large amount of some colors, like if you use a large amount of red or orange or yellow, it can actually trigger anger, right? Which is like the point past excitement. Okay. So for these, it's like if your customers need to feel excited and passion and, like desire, then you would use some pops of red. If they want to feel hope and growth and balance, then you'd anchor some green in there. If they want to feel serenity, or that they trust you, and this is why I always advise using some blue if you can, that they trust you, then you anchor blue. Okay. And then purple really only belongs in ultra feminine products, feminine power products, or spirituality products. Okay. At least in the US, that may be different. And this is different based on every culture, right? So there are some cultures where like yellow is the color you wear to get married. Okay. Whereas in the US you wear white, right? So you have to know that culture as well. So if you're optimizing on other platforms or for other countries, then you want to make sure to pay attention to their cultural mores, right? So these were rankings as ranked by consumer psychologists of, like kind of the percentage, right? So if you're trying to anchor trust and reliability and security, like blue seems to be across the board something. That's why we always try to use some blue somewhere, right, to anchor that trust, reliability, and security. If you want to anchor something happening fast, red, right? If you want to anchor something being passionate, red, obviously. If you want to anchor cheapness, okay, you can use, there's a lot of oranges, dingy yellows, or brown, okay? You don't like, and cheapness can be bad, or you can also, say affordability, right? But you definitely want to try to stay away from those non-burnt oranges. The burnt oranges are a little bit different, right? Premium luxury is always black, blue. Purple also is useful in that. I found using a lot of silver is helpful. They didn't test out silver on here. They did test out steel gray, right? High tech or cutting edge black, electric, technical blue, or gray. We actually, sorry about that. We actually tested this recently we took a company and we just completely rebranded it, right? So they didn't want to use their same brand anymore. Amazon had decided that they weren't going to be able to sell them there anymore. So they pulled out all their products. We redesigned all their packaging. We redesigned we changed their colors from being like bright red, orange, yellow, which was selling okay. Pardon me, which was selling okay. And then we used more of the high-tech cutting edge colors in all of the images. Okay, and a slightly different language. And they are now converting at 49%, which is before they were converting at like 18%. And 18% is still respectable considering that most Amazon listings written by, Amazon listing optimization specialists or whatever, they're calling themselves these days. I just call myself an Amazon copywriter, right? Hypnotic Amazon copywriter. The optimization specialists converted an average of 6%, so 18% wasn't bad, but getting to 49%, that's almost 1 out of every 2 people converting on that listing. Right? Imagine how much that drops your tacos, your ACOS, and everything else. Let's see here. Courage. Purple, fun, orange, yellow, purple. Again, when you have bright colors, use pops of colors. And when you have an older audience, don't use pops of color. Don't use bright colors. Okay? Don't ever use bright colors, especially not bright red. Right? If you're looking at different gender demographics, men tend to prefer like slightly cooler colors slightly more than they prefer, like warmer colors. And 76% of women preferred cooler colors. So if you're looking at colors to use, look on the cool color spectrum, not the warm color spectrum. There are obviously some instances where, same thing if you're creating products, create products out of cooler colors, like not warmer colors, right? Orange and yellow is the most disliked color. So try to avoid orange and yellow unless it's little pops of it to highlight things. And then only usually if you have a younger, highly energetic demographic, okay? Or a demographic, like you can use yellow to show like a warning, okay? And that's why a lot of people don't like yellow. It's because it's used for warnings, So you can use like a yellow, looks like a paint slash and then write warning across the front of it. Let's see here. Nobody likes dingier colors. So if the color looks dingy and you can ask around, be like, does this color look dingy to you? Don't use it, right? Women prefer blue, green, purple, and red. Men prefer blue, green, red, and purple, orange, and black. Women also liked black. I mean, that's an obvious one. Pretty much everybody likes black. Let's see here. So, here's some, if you want to use red, okay, here are the places you would use it, right? Like I said, there's always a way to use it. If you are trying to make somebody hungry or you're trying to get them worked up, like nervous system arousal, you would want to use red because, especially for weight loss and food products, it stimulates the appetite. Okay. So it's anchoring it to that product. And then anchors to fear and survival. So you can use splashes of red for prepper products, right? Preppers are like survivalist products, right? People who believe that they have to defend themselves. And not every prepper is like that. Not necessarily defend themselves, but there is a group that goes as far on the spectrum as like, I have to defend myself against the government. But there's also people like us, like we're kind of preppers where we have enough food and water stored in case of an emergency, which we've had 3 weather emergencies in the last year, right? So that kind of, the yellow and the red kind of anchors to that. It helps to trigger that fear and survival. Orange, you want to use for young hip products. Do not ever use orange for anyone over 55. If you have an orange product and you're trying to sell it to people over 55, change the color. If you have an orange logo, change the logo. If you could just seriously, if someone is over 55, don't use orange in the listing, right? Let's see here. You can also use it for Ayurvedic products. And orange is actually an appetite suppressant. So, um, an appetite. Sorry, it stimulates appetite. It's not a suppressant. So you want to use it for weight loss and appetite killers, unless the person's over 55, in which case don't do that. But with the Ayurvedic products, it's because people who study within that area know that that's a color that's pre-anchored to those products is orange, right? And purple, actually. Let's see here. Yellow. You can use this if you're pushing pain points around self-esteem, fear, and anxiety. And you can use little pops of yellow to draw attention to specific product features, right? Pink, young femininity, compassion, understanding, and love. We use that a lot for bathroom products, for like romantic gifts, holiday gifts, and obviously lingerie. Same thing with purple. Magenta. This is a big one for if you have, oh my goodness, if you're writing to the femme power culture, right? Green. You can use green anywhere. Obviously, you want to use it in outdoor nature products. You want to use it anytime you're dealing with money, well-being. You want lighter greens for well-being, balance, and harmony. Environmentally sustainable. You want that green leaf everywhere. Health food. Green works great. Health and fitness. Anything health. Okay. And red, well, it incites the urgency to buy. Green actually has been shown to changing things to green. People say they felt like they had permission to buy. And those are actual customer words, as they have permission to buy. So using green, like a green button. I don't know if you guys have read, I think there's a book called The Green Button that actually dramatically accelerated conversions just by switching from red to green, right? So red, urgency, green, permission. Okay, so use more green. Blues do everything. Okay, quells anxiety, anchors trust, good for masculinity, good for femininity, peace, spirituality, maturity, reliability, security, high tech. They're everywhere in big ticket items. They're everywhere on spa pages. They're everywhere in hospitality, financial, medical supplements, anything that goes in or on the body. And then lighter blue for anything for security and freedom, right? Or for anything high tech, like the electric blue for high tech. Blue deals with anxiety before it arises. So if you can put blue somewhere on your product in that main image, or, after you had the person click on that, click on your title and your image, if you can use blue in the second image, it's a really great place. People also, their brains slow down when they see blue, right? So it's a great way to anchor in more ease of understanding and to get people to slow down and read for more complex or hard to understand products, right? And then turquoise, we've been using turquoise a lot lately. So sophistication, like just a touch of it. Don't use like a whole turquoise background because it's overwhelming. Just a touch of it for sophistication, spirituality, healing, and protection, right? Purple. Let's see here. Lighter tones draw more feminine. Usually purple incites intrigue. People think of magic, right? They think of new agey thing. They think of what's next. They think of the unknown, right? These are people who love new ideas, love to see purple, right? But there's also a religious and pious side to it. Okay. So it's not just for spirituality. It's like, if you're selling a religious product, and, I know, like if you're selling we're talking about Christian women's care baskets, purple would be a great thing to include, maybe make part of the card purple, or, and have it stick out of the basket. I mean, that's something that's already anchored to spirituality and religion. Brown, ugh. Don't use brown on Amazon unless it's like part of the dirt. Okay. Obviously, if your product is brown, like it's coffee, chocolate, if it's a camping product and it needs to be camouflage, brown camouflage, that makes sense. Outdoor gear. Some people like dark brown couches, leather. If something is naturally brown, you can use brown. Otherwise, you can use brown where black feels too intense. But really, we try to avoid using brown as much as possible. It just doesn't calm people down. It doesn't slow them down. It doesn't make them buy more. We just kind of try to avoid it. Black, power, mystery, elegance, sophistication, control, and independence. Okay. So these are people who are trying to get somewhere in life, right? These are people who are trying to feel in control. Sometimes people who are trying to remain hidden, even though they want to get somewhere in life, separate from others. We use this a lot with defense products like MMA. We use this behind like anything that's like you want to anchor power, right? We use it as a gradient. Okay, so like gradients, silver, black, gray, right? And then luxury products, obviously in contrast to white. Okay, and I just like, let me show you guys just an example of what I just did here. I've been going through and testing this. It's working really well. So what I did was, as opposed, like my website used to be a lot more colorful, right? My book cover was a lot more colorful. So I've gone through and done this. Okay, so like there's a little bit of blue, there's some green, but it's mostly black and white, right? So I've been testing that and it's been working really well. I was like, oh, I'll test it on my website, see how it works, because I like the color contrast and the class behind it. Let's see here. Whiteness, nope, slideshow. There we go. White, obviously, peace, purity. Again, with the Christian women's products, like white would be great. If you include like a white handkerchief, that like an embroidered white handkerchief, that might be something that's really unique, right? That they can carry with them. Let's see here. So, good. I can suddenly hear myself. Okay, so you can pair with black and gray. What is going on here? Give me a second. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm re-sharing my screen. Apparently sharing my screen before was what was causing it. Can you hear me now and can you see the screen? Okay, so I'm going back to where I was, and this is all recorded too. So if you miss something, it's still going to be recorded on my end, and so I'll be able to send it over to you guys after it renders for like 9 hours or 24 hours. It takes forever for some reason to render. Okay, so back to colors. We are almost done with the color psychology, right? And again, this is more of a checklist, and like I could have just sent this PowerPoint to you, but what I wanted to do is be able to add the different like addendums to it, right? The things that I just know in my head and the things that we've been testing. So you have that as well to learn from. And also obviously, so you can ask questions. So gold, this is not the yellowy gold. This is more of the crisp gold. So prestige, luxury, abundance, prosperity, charm, and confidence, right? We don't use this as a main color because it looks gaudy. Unless it's like a product where, unless you're in a country where gold is considered something that is, more pure and not egotistical and flashy, right? Silver, we use pops of silver and slashes of silver and also like silver background gradients a lot. Glamour, high tech, to anchor gracefulness or like sleekness to a product. Cream, we use this instead of white for premium high-end household products a lot. White sometimes just looks too boring. So cream, like a cream gradient background is really great to use if you have like softer color products or baby products or pet products. Let's see here. How many colors to use? And when we're talking about this, we're not talking about how many different shades of blue. We're talking about, like, do we use blue, green, orange, and yellow? Or do we just use blue? Okay, so with the conservative customers or older customers, we want to use one color with contrasting color variations from the same color plus black and white. So like you could use one blue, like one main blue, you could use that would obviously be lighter. So, it's easier on the eyes. And then you would use, you can use 2 to 3 color variations that complement that same color. And you can always use black and white, right? For elderly customers, don't use red and green. Those are harder to see. And avoid bright yellow and orange because they're perceived as cheap. Okay. We just redid a full packaging for another nutraceutical product because their target demographic wasn't like, they did great in the country they're originally selling in, and now they've moved to the US and the UK, and they've moved into, like, they haven't moved themselves, but they've moved their products into US and UK on Amazon, and now it's, they're like, oh my gosh, it's not selling. What's going on? Everybody needs this. And I'm like, your colors are killing you. And so we changed it, and it was correct. It was the colors that were killing the sales, right? And some people were still buying, but the people who were buying were younger customers for their parents. So keep that in mind too, because there may be people who, maybe you're selling a product to somebody for, who's 55, I guess 55 plus is not elderly. Like 65, 70 plus is when people start moving into that range, usually 80 plus. And keep in mind whether or not they're buying it or their kids are buying it, right? Chances are if they're 80 years old, their kids are probably over 55. So same thing. But if you've got somebody who's on, if you're selling a product to people who, are struggling with something at like age 57, but you're selling, their kids are buying it for them and their kids are 30, 2 or something, then you'd want to aim for that 32-year-old, not aim for the person who is actually going to be using the product. Okay. So again, it's not about the user, it's about the buyer. Let's see here. Moderate, liberal, middle age, and younger use the 60-30-10 rule. Okay, so 60-30-10 is you should have 3 colors, 1 dominant, and 2 secondary accents, right? You can play with additional contrasting color based on the 1 dominant color. So when I say 3 colors, that means you can use like blue, green, and black, right? So you want to have one of those be your dominant, 60% of your images, like your backgrounds, or your sales copy if you're using color, and then 2 secondaries. And then you can add pops of color where you want people to where you want to draw attention. So the red, orange, yellow, right? Black and white never count in your color scheme as one of the colors selected unless you're using all black or all white bases. Okay, so these are kind of your cheat sheets for how many colors to use, right? Let's see here. And that is pretty much everything that we know from 12 years and what's working now, especially on color psychology, right? So yeah, I'm gonna do this real quick and I will take questions. Let's see here. Let's go back to our group. How many questions do we have today? Anybody have a specific use question? Hold on for just a second here. Going to week 10. Is everybody still alive? Yes. Let's see here. Thank you. I always enjoy giving that presentation, but I also don't because sometimes I feel like it's just like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. Like I feel like I'm just like I'm just shooting off facts to you guys, and maybe I should just make you a checklist instead. But I also like to be able to explain things around it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions about previous classes, or are we good to jump off for the day? That's what we have for this week. It's a lot to absorb already. So next week we're going to go into the A+ ABC patterns that we've been testing and using. Okay, Bilal, go ahead. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Bilal and then Neri.
Diane, I just I have a lot to catch up this weekend. So if I have questions or send in some stuff for you to review via the email, would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. Definitely. I've been receiving homework and responding.
Thank you. I miss everybody.